Module 1. This module will demonstrate the basic installation procedure of Ansible on the control node. We will then explore different Ansible directories and files required to run an Ansible playbook. And one thing is worth mentioning is that in order for this control node to be able to run Ansible, we need to have Linux, the Linux operating system installed from different vendors. It can be a Red Hat, Debian, Ubuntu, and many others. In this case, we're going to be using Ubuntu Linux. This module contains the following lessons. Lesson 1, download, install, and set up Ansible. Lesson 2, Ansible directories and files. It says network automation with Ansible, the new era of app application modernization and digital IT has fundamentally changed the way we build, deploy, and maintain networks. Networks are designed to scale out instead of scaling up. The scale-out model is designed to add more capacity into the network at low cost. These networks are built at huge scale, and it becomes impossible to deploy and maintain networks of this scale without using automation. Network automation has become a necessity to build, deploy, and maintain networks at scale. Yep, you have tens or hundreds of switches. It does make sense to have a way to automate the configuration of a fabric, for example, using industry standard tools such as Ansible, in this case like Ansible, and by leveraging the Dell networking integration with Ansible, customers can automate up to 99% of the network from day 0 to day, let's say 1, 2, or 3, for example, after the initial rack and stack. Why network automation? Networks have evolved drastically over the years. Networking has evolved from being as simple as having some VLANs, right, and some spanning tree CLI, is evolving to software-defined API-based provisioning. So that is the goal of being able to, instead of logging into switch to switch and or pushing a script, it is better to use a tool such as an Ansible. That way we can provision switches in a more efficient and simple fashion. The scale of networks then and now are very different. As the scale increases, complexity increases, and the ability to manage them manually through CLI becomes error prone. And that's the idea of having these Ansible playbooks, something that has been tested and that can be pushed out to the network, the managed nodes, in this case switches, and that way we can eliminate typing mistakes, for example, or perhaps having a bad config file. Network automation is necessary to, again, build scalable infrastructure, build predictable infrastructure, and to minimize errors. And some of the dev operation for networks in the old way or the old fashion might take weeks, months, and years. And you have a group of people coding, people that understand Python and some other programming languages such as C++, and then they have to test that code. That's going to take some time, and then they release the code, and then finally the operators will take advantage of that a new configuration or deployment. Now, 44% of the time, a network change can lead to an outage. 79% of the time, network change is verified manually via CLI, and it might take up to 5 hours to find and resolve a network issue or more. So the idea is to move from this paradigm into a new one that will take hours and days instead of weeks, months, and years. Download, install, and set up Ansible. This lesson will walk us through basic installation steps for Ansible. For setting up Ansible on Ubuntu 18.404 VM, which will be the control node used in this lab. Currently, Ansible can run on any machine with Python 2 version 2.7 or Python 3 version 3.5 and higher installed. This network Red Hat, this includes Red Hat, Debian, CentOS, macOS, or any of the VSDs. In this case, Dell operating system 10, OS 10 is based on Debian Linux, as well as Sonic. Windows isn't supported for the control node. Ansible setup, open and launch. Open the Launchpad desktop. In this is the Linux desktop, the virtual Linux desktop, so let's open it. And I have already configured a few things here. So I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next screen. It says here, double click the deployment and automation server. So I'm gonna double click the deployment and automation server. It is showing there the SSH protocol, the host IP address 192.168.1.9, the user root, and the port 22. So let's go ahead and open this virtual machine, and let's go ahead and move on. Ansible installation. I already ran these commands, these Linux commands about the apt update, apt install software properties common, and then the Ansible software installation. So that's already installed. Then it says once Ansible is installed, check the version that has been installed using this command. So let's go ahead and check the Ansible version. That's something that I can do. Let's go ahead and drop it here on the bottom left and type enter, and then over here it tells me that Ansible 2.10.3 is already installed, and also it's showing me that the config file is in this directory or this path at etc ansible.cfg. And let's move on to the next one. It says here navigate to the Ansible directory. It's very easy. We just do the change directory and type the path, hit enter, and it says cd home lab user module. Oh, I forgot to do the one. So let's move. Let's drag the whole path. There you go. So now it said it is actually at the home lab user module 1. So okay, so I didn't drag the one before. Let's move on. It says Ansible directories and files. That's important because it says here this lesson will explore the Ansible directories and files required to run a playbook. We will also learn about Ansible ping module to ping the OS 10 switches using the Ansible CLI. Ansible directories are the core building blocks. Remember, core building blocks required to run the Ansible playbook. Traditional networking used as shell scripts to automate the CLI configuration, and they can be simple or hard depending on what you're doing. But Ansible is just an easy way to automate in a language that approaches plain English using SSH with no agents to install on the remote systems. Various elements of the configurations are contained within a subset of these directories, which is nice. The Ansible configuration file. Certain settings in Ansible are adjustable via a configuration file, ansible.cfg, and this is the path. So let's see what we have here. Yes, rather etc ansible.cfg. So once we are at this path, let's go ahead and open that file by typing this command cat ansible.cfg, and then it has some things that can be adjusted. The stock configuration is sufficient for most users, but there are reasons you would want to change the default values, but at this point I'm gonna leave everything as it is. Please minimize the MOVA-X term console. So let's minimize it, move on. Ping OS 10 switches using the Ansible CLI. Let us perform a single ping operation using Ansible CLI. Ping module is a trivial test module that always returns the value pong on successful contact. It is useful to verify the ability to log in into a remote managed node, in this case a switch, that a usable Python version is configured. This is not an ICMP ping, but a test module that requires Python on the remote node to answer back to see if it's actually working. So let's move on to the next one. It says open the Launchpad desktop by clicking on the GNS3 shortcut icon. So let's click on the GNS3 icon. It says another GNS3 GUI is already running. Continue. Nope. Let me close. And I already have one here running. So what I did is that I went to the Click Projects library. I selected module 1 and then I clicked OK. So for example, let's say I go to File, Open Project, Project Library, Module 1, and then I hit OK, and that's how I was able to bring these two switches into this project. And it says here GNS3 file will open loading this topology, checked. And then it says node, turn them on. Alright, so let's go ahead and hit the play button. Now the two switches are on. Then it says here to log in to the console for switch 1. So let's right click and I'm gonna do the custom console, PuTTY normal standalone version. Okay, so now, so let's go back to the first switch. Alright, so let's continue. It says here, please log in to switch 1. So let's log in into switch 1. Admin. And for some reason it's not working on switch 1. I'm gonna have to turn it off and turn it back on. Okay. It wasn't loading. Now I think it's working. Admin. Okay. This is switch 1, zero touch deployment, cancel. Okay, so that's good. Alright, so let's continue. This is let's go to switch 1. It says here to check the IP address for the management interface. So let's go ahead and do that. The system is ready. Let's go ahead and do, just keep in mind this is an emulator. Show interface, management, and then the IP address is 192.168.1.201/24, and then it says here to copy that the IP address into the readme text file on the desktop. Please note that this text file is for reference only, so that you can note down the IP address to be used in the inventory file later. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to the desktop and open that readme text file, and I already copy the IP addresses for switch 1. In this case is 192.168.1.201 for switch 1 and 202 for switch 2. I manually came here and deleted this. Please copy the management IP address here. So that is already taken care of. And then I go to switch number 2. I did the same thing to get to the IP address. I'm not going to repeat that. And then it says copy and save the management IP address for switch 2. Once you find the IP address for switch 2, put it in the README text file on the desktop and minimize the GNS3 console. Access the Ansible control node. So I need to go back to the MOVA Xterm terminal minimized earlier. So this is the Linux virtual machine server, and let's see what else. It says review the inventory file, and so I'm gonna move. Well, I already moved to this home lab user module 1. We're there, and then it says view the inventory YAML file. YAML file. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and view the inventory YAML file. Hit enter, and then it says here, do you want to edit? I'm gonna type E for edit, and then it says here, in Ansible inventory represent that in Ansible inventory represents the devices hosts that Ansible will manage. It defines the IP address assigned to the management interface of the switch. Using an inventory file, a single playbook can maintain hundreds of network devices with a single command. That's how powerful it is. The default location for the inventory is etc Ansible hosts. You can specify a different directory, a different inventory file using the iPath option on the command line. To open the inventory file, please enter the following commands, which I did already. Edit the inventory file. Once the file opens, in this case this one is open over here on the left, type I and move the cursor to replace the text. Please copy switch 1's IP address here and copy the IP address for switch 1 and switch 2 from the README text file on the desktop. So that's what I'm going to do. The variables defined next to the IP address are required to establish the connection to the switch. In this case, switch 1, it has a bunch of, they call it variables that are defined next to the IP address to establish connection to the switch. So over here, it mentions the Dell EMC OS 10, Ansible, SSH user, admin, Ansible, SSH password, admin, and which is in line with the default password on this Dell operating system 10 switches. Ansible connection equal using networking CLI. Okay, that's understandable. So I'm gonna move this this cursor right here, or this gray box, into this position right here, and I'm gonna hit the I as India, a small cap, and over here look at it says inventory YAML. So once I hit the I, it says insert. So now we have an insert because I type I. You don't see it, but I did type I. Now we are in insert mode. So I can go ahead and hit delete to delete that string that says, hey, place the IP address for the management interface here. So in this case, I need to go to the file, and over here is 192.168.1.201. Okay. And then I'm gonna leave just one space after. Then I need to do the same here. I'm gonna move this cursor right here by the P letter, like Papa. I'm gonna type the letter small caps I. Oh no, I'm already in insert mode, so I don't have to do that for the second one. Okay, that's something new. Okay, so I'm gonna delete this string for switch 2, and I'm gonna type 192.168.1.202. I'm gonna leave just one space. And then it says here Ansible SSH user, which is over here, admin, and then Ansible SSH password, which is this one, admin. And then it says the Ansible networking OS, which is going to be OS 10. And then the Ansible connection, the connection type to the host, which in this case is going to be the network CLI. And then it says, congratulations, you just created your first Ansible inventory file. Okay, so that's why they said before that a lot of these entries were already populated for me, and all I had to do is to type the IP addresses for switch 1 for the management interface for switch 1 and switch 2, and then it says here press escape to save and close the file. So I go back to this screen on the left, and then I press escape. Okay, so the next step is gonna be to save this configuration. So what I need to do here, I need to press the escape key, and then I need to use, well, type colon. So let's do shift colon, and it's over here on the lower left, and then I'm gonna type WQ to save that and those entries I made with the 2 IP addresses, and then press enter. And now is saved. So I wanna check if indeed it was saved, and it was. So I just need to exit again. Let's do the colon. In this case, I'm gonna do Q and see if it works. Yep, I'm out. Okay, so let's continue and see what's next. It says Ansible ping command. The final step is to ping the switch using the Ansible CLI. So we're gonna run this Ansible all -i space inventory.yaml space -m space ping. So let's do that. It says here the -i flag points to the inventory file, and the m flag is for the ping module. Okay. And then let's go ahead and run it and hit enter, and we got something back. Let's see what it says. Success means that Ansible was able to ping the host in the inventory. Okay, so let's see. Yep, it says success switch 2, and then success switch 1, discovered interpreter Python, and then it has the path. So that worked. Let's move to the next one. It says this is the module conclusion. Congratulations on completing module 1. In this module we learn how to install Ansible. We learn about the Ansible directory structure, about how to create an inventory file, a very simple one, and then to ping an OS 10 switch using the ping module in Ansible. And this will conclude this module 1.